375. A dog's loyalty. In Zhou village, there was a merchant surnamed Jia who did business in Wuhu and made a lot of money. He hired a boat to prepare to return to his hometown and saw a butcher on the river bank about to kill a dog. The merchant bought the dog for double the price and kept it on the boat. The boatman on the boat was originally a robber on the rivers and lakes. He secretly observed that the merchant had so much money, so he drove the boat into the reeds and took up a knife to kill the merchant. The merchant pleaded bitterly with the boatman to grant him a complete corpse. So the robber wrapped the merchant in a felt blanket and threw him into the river. The dog saw the merchant being thrown into the river, howled and jumped into the water, bit the felt blanket wrapped around the merchant, and sank and floated in the river together. It's unknown how many miles it drifted downstream, and it was stopped by a shallow beach. The dog surfaced, ran to where there were people, and kept howling. Some people felt that there must be a reason, so they followed the dog to the shallow beach, saw a bundle of felt in the water, so they dragged it out, cut the rope, and the merchant was still alive. After waking up, he recounted his ordeal. He also pleaded with other boatmen to take him back to Wuhu, preparing to wait there for the robber's boat to return. The merchant got on the boat and found that his dog was gone. He was very sad and regretful. Upon arriving at the Wuhu pier, he searched for 3 or 4 days, only to see the masts of the merchant ships like a forest, but he could not find the thief boat. At this time, there happened to be a fellow villager who planned to take him back to Zhou village together. Suddenly the dog came back by itself and howled loudly at the merchant. The merchant hurriedly called it, but it turned around and left. The merchant got off the boat to chase it, but it rushed onto another boat and bit a person's calf on the boat. No matter how it was beaten, it would not let go. The merchant stepped forward to scold it, only to find that the dog was biting the robber who had robbed and killed. It turned out that the robber had changed his clothes and boat, so it was difficult for the merchant to recognize him. The merchant tied up the robber, searched on the boat, and the money was still there. Alas, a dog can repay such a favor. Those heartless people in the world should be ashamed that they are not as good as a dog. 376. Yang Dahong. Yang Lian 19 style Dahong was from Yingshan, Hubei. He was quite famous before he became an official and considered himself extraordinary. Once, after a civil service examination, he heard that the results were being announced. At the time, he was eating and still had a mouthful of food, so he hurriedly ran out and asked, "Is there anyone with the surname Yang?" The person replied, "No." Yang Dahong was disheartened, swallowed the mouthful of food, and it got stuck in his chest. This formed a lump, causing him great discomfort. Everyone advised him to go to the provincial capital to participate in the supplementary examination. He was worried about the cost, and everyone pooled together 10 taels of silver for him, so he reluctantly set off. At night, he dreamed that someone told him, "There is someone on the road ahead who can cure your illness. You must beg him earnestly." When he left, he gave him a poem, which included the lines, "3 tunes of the flute under the willows by the river. Throw it into the river, but there's nothing to sigh about." The next day, Yang Dahong saw a Taoist sitting under a willow tree at the place where he was staying, so he went forward to kowtow and asked the Taoist to cure his illness. The Taoist laughed and said, "You've got the wrong person. How could I cure diseases? But I can play 3 tunes for you." He took out a flute and started playing. Yang Dahong suddenly remembered the scene in his dream and pleaded with the Taoist even more and respectfully handed him all the silver he had on him. The Taoist took it and threw it into the river. Because the silver was hard-earned, Yang Dahong felt very sorry. The Taoist said, "It seems that you are a bit heartbroken. It's okay. The silver is by the river. You can pick it up yourself." Yang Dahong went to the river and saw that the silver was indeed there. He felt even more strange in his heart and called him an immortal. The Taoist casually pointed with his hand and said, "I am not an immortal. There is an immortal coming over there." When Yang Dahong looked back, the Taoist slapped him on the back of his neck and said, "You are too vulgar." Yang Dahong was hit unexpectedly, his lips immediately opened, and he made a gurgling sound. Then he spat out a lump, which fell to the ground with a plop. He bent down to open it and saw that it was the mouthful of food he had swallowed, wrapped in blood. He suddenly felt as if the pain had been removed. When he looked back at the Taoist, he was nowhere to be seen. Mr. Escher remarks, "The gentleman was as great as a mountain when he was alive, and still as bright as the sun and the moon after his death, because he and the censors of Guangdou, 20 jointly supported the young master Shizong, 21, to ascend the throne. He dared to fight against the eunuch Wei Zhongxian, 22, and was finally killed by Wei. Therefore, why should great people seek immortality? Some people think that Yang Gong still cannot get rid of vulgarity in terms of not forgetting his fame and cherishing money, and cannot become an immortal, so they feel sorry for him. I say that it is better to have one more sage in the world than one more immortal in the sky, and those who understand the truth will not think that my words are upside down. 377. CHAYA Mountain Cave. In Shandong's Jiangzhou County, there is a mountain called CHAYA Mountain. On the mountain, there is a stone cave that looks like a well and is several feet deep. There is a hole on the north wall of the stone cave, and if you lean over the edge of the cave and look down, you can see it. On the Double Ninth Festival, 9th day of the 9th lunar month, a few people from a nearby village came here to drink chrysanthemum wine and decided to explore the stone cave. 3 of them took candles and were lowered to the bottom of the cave with ropes. They saw that the hole in the north wall was tall and spacious, like a large room. After walking a few steps inside, it became a bit narrower, and suddenly they reached the end. At the bottom of the end of the cave, there was a small hole that a person could crawl into. They shone a light with the candle, and the inside was dark and immeasurable. 2 of them didn't have the courage to go any further and retreated. Another person laughed at their cowardice, snatched the candle, and squeezed himself into the small hole. Fortunately, the narrow place was only as thick as a wall, and once he crawled inside, it suddenly became tall and spacious again. He stood up and continued to walk forward. The stones on the top were uneven and very dangerous, as if they were about to fall. The cave walls on both sides were steep and overlapped, like statues in a temple, all in the shapes of birds, beasts, humans, and ghosts. The birds looked like they were about to fly, the beasts looked like they were about to walk, some humans looked like they were sitting. Some looked like they were standing, and the ghosts showed an angry expression, strange and mostly ugly, with few good-looking ones. He became nervous and terrified when he saw this. Fortunately, the road under his feet was very flat, without any pits or bumps. After slowly walking a few hundred steps forward, he saw a stone room opened on the west side along the wall. On the left side of the door, there was a strange stone ghost standing towards him, staring with 2 eyes, its mouth wide open like a dustpan, with its teeth and tongue showing fierce and ferocious. Its left hand was clenched into a fist, propped on its waist. Its right hand spread out 5 fingers as if to pounce on someone. This person was very frightened, and the hairs on his body stood up. From a distance, he saw that there were burnt charcoal ashes inside the stone room door, knowing that someone had been inside before, and his courage grew a little, and he braved his scalp and walked in. He saw some bowls and wine cups on the ground filled with dirt. However, they were all modern utensils, not ancient kiln goods. There were 4 tin wine pots placed next to them. Thinking he could take advantage of this, he untied a belt and tied it around the neck of the wine pot and fastened it to his waist. Then he looked to the side and saw a corpse lying in the corner on the west side, with both arms and legs stretched out in all directions. He was extremely scared. Upon closer inspection, the corpse was wearing pointed shoes, and the plum blossom carved on the sole of the shoe was still preserved, indicating that this was a young woman. However, he didn't know which village she was from, let alone the year she died. The color of the woman's clothes had already darkened and decayed, and it was impossible to tell whether it was green or red. Her hair was fluffy, like a basket of messy silk, sticking to the skull. There were 2 eye and nose holes under the skull. 2 rows of teeth were white and bright, indicating that this was the mouth. He speculated that there must be gold, silver, and jewelry on the woman's head, so he brought the candle close to her head. Suddenly, it seemed like there was a breath blowing out from the woman's mouth. The candlelight flickered, the flame appeared dim yellow, and his clothes were also blown up. At this moment, he was really scared. His hand trembled and shook, and the candle was immediately extinguished. In the darkness, he hurriedly ran back along the way he had come, relying on his memory, not daring to touch the cave wall with his hands for fear of touching ghostly things. Unexpectedly, his head hit a stone, and he fell to the ground all at once. He immediately got up, feeling something wet and cold flowing down his cheek to his chin, knowing it was blood, but he didn't feel any pain, and he restrained himself from groaning. Panting heavily, he ran to the small hole, just about to lie down. It seemed like someone suddenly grabbed his hair, and he fainted all at once. The people sat on the edge of the stone cave and waited for a long time without seeing this person come out, suspecting that something had happened to him, so they lowered the original 2 people down with a rope. One person leaned his body into the small hole and saw that this person's hair was hanging on the stone. His face was bloody, and he had already fainted. The 2 people were shocked and didn't dare to go in, so they could only sit on the side and sigh. After a while, 2 more people were lowered down from above. Among them, a bold one quickly crawled in and dragged him out. The man was taken out of the cave and placed on the mountain. It took him half a day to wake up. He detailed the scenes he saw inside the cave to everyone. The regret was that he couldn't reach the end of the cave. If he could reach the end, there would definitely be better scenery. Later, the county magistrate of Zhangqiu heard about this and sent people to seal the small hole inside the stone cave with mud, preventing people from going in again. During the 26th or 27th year of Kangxi's reign, the southern cliff of Yangmu collapsed, revealing a cave entrance. People watched from the side and saw that the stalactites inside were dense like bamboo shoots. But the cave was deep and dangerous, and no one dared to go in. Suddenly, a Taoist priest came here, claiming to be a disciple of the immortal Zhongli. He said, "My master sent me here first to clean up the cave mansion." The villagers provided him with a lamp, and the Taoist priest took it down. Unexpectedly, he accidentally fell on the stalagmite and was pierced through his stomach and died. People reported to the county magistrate, and the county magistrate sent people to seal the cave entrance. There must be a unique realm inside the cave, but it's a pity that the Taoist priest died and there was no echo.